Hello everyone. Today we are going to be learning on web development. So we are going to start from scratch. Everything we need to know about web development from the theory to the practicals, everything from scratch. So this is a comprehensive guide for web development. If you are new here, please sit down and relax. No need to worry. We are going to take it one step at a time. And when you see anything you don't understand, just let me know and then I'll talk about it again. So web development. Let's go. So in this course, the things we are going to learn or the topics we are going to emphasize on are going to be what is development, what is web development, the overview of web development, the difference between the front end and back end, web development tools, code editors, and then browsers and developer tools. So let's start with what is web development. So we've always been hearing web development, but what is it exactly? So web development is about making websites and web applications that people can use and enjoy. So one may ask the difference between websites and then web applications. So websites are basically showing information. So you go on a page where they just show information, nothing extra is added there. And then nothing extra meaning they like instead of interacting with the website is just static, just showing information. And web applications are they are the ones that we get to interact with. So take an e-commerce website for instance, that's a web application because you get to log in, you get to buy a product, you get to send it to the carts and all that. You get to do payments and all. So those ones are web applications. But then the one that's just showing just the information is a website. So now you have the difference between a website and a web app. And so now you said the types of web development. So in web development, we have the front end and back end. So the front end deals with what we get to see as soon as we open the website, the interactive features. So mostly you get to see a page, you get to see a form, you get to see some images. So those are the front end things. And then the back end involves the server side development, the databases and everything the front end works correct. That makes the front end work correctly. So the back end is mostly not seen. So that's why it's back. Yeah, that's why it's back. It's not seen. So those are the under G's behind the scenes people. So they get to deal with the database, how information is stored from. So if you input, let's say you see a form on a website, you input the form, it goes to the back end, and that's the database where it saves your details. So those ones are not seen. Those are like those are behind the scenes projects. Yeah, behind the scenes, yeah, development. Let's say that way. And so we have the key technologies that we use here. So when it comes to the front end, we use HTML, which is the hypertext markup language. We have the CSS, the cascading style sheets, and then the JS, which is JavaScript. So let's take a look at something here. So let's open something. Let's just create a page here. So all this, don't worry about it. We'll do it later on. So it says what? It says we have the HTML, we have the CSS, and we have the JS. So that's the JavaScript. So looking at this, we created an HTML page here. Let's create a CSS page. So let's just name it style.css. And then we have a JavaScript. So let's say main.js. So JavaScript is mostly, so the shorthand is JS, and then the HTML is HTML, the hypertext markup language, and then the CS that's the CSS, that's the cascading style sheet is there. So the HTML is for the skeleton of the page. So that's where we get to write our headers, paragraphs, and all, add our images and all. And then CSS deals with styling of the page. So you get to see some pages. So mostly you see the colors and all the other designs, that's the CSS coming in there. And then the JavaScript deals with the functionalities. So we get to see, maybe you go to a page, when you click this, it brings a new design and does some nice animation before it goes to another page. All this, just don't worry about it. We'll take a look at all of them. And then when it comes to the back end, we have Python is popular, we have PHP, we have Node.js. At first, I remember, I quite recall when I went to university for the first time, they asked us the languages we could write, and people were saying Python, PHP, C sharp, C plus plus, and I was like, what's that? I was lost, like totally lost, until I asked a friend, and then he brought me up to speed. So just don't worry, we are going to go through everything one after the other. And then the databases too are part of the backend. So the database, we have MySQL, we have uh, Postgres, and so mostly, so the databases are written in SQL, so SQL. So that some people say SQL, I say SQL. I don't know. So that's how it is. And then, so all this we'll get into it. I just want you to get to know the basics of how everything works, and then later on we'll get to into the coding aspects. So we have some web development tools. So in terms of web development, we don't just sit and then say, yeah, we are developing. We need some tools that are going to help us develop what we are trying to bring out there. So first we need a code editor. So the code editor deals with, so this you saw me open this is a code editor. So that's where we write our codes. The code editor is where we get to write our codes. We have the version control systems. So we have the GitHub for version control. All this we'll get into it, so don't worry about it. We have browsers and developer tools. So some of the browsers we use the Google Chrome, the Mozilla Firefox, and all that. We'll get into them, so don't worry about it. So we have the front end frameworks. So the front end frameworks and libraries deals with the things that we do on the things that we write the codes in to help us get the required interface that we are looking for. When I say interface, it means the required look that we are looking for, because the front end deals with the look, like I said earlier, what you get to see. So we have some front end frameworks which we are going to be dealing with as time goes on. We have some CSS frameworks as well. We have package managers, we have APIs, and so APIs is application programming interface, right? So that's two applications communicating with each other to help bring a successful project to completion, something like that. So we just say, so that's mostly dealing with, yeah, two applications communicate with each other. So let's say we need information from Google, and then we are writing the codes on our editor. We just communicate with Google through the API, and then it gives us the information we are looking for. So we have the deployment and hosting services. So the deployment deals with, so after you are done writing the codes, like, it doesn't just stay on your machine. Others have to see it, because what's the use of it if it's just on your machine? So that's where deployment comes in, putting it out there to, so others can also get to see what you've done. And so we'll be looking at all that. That's the deployment, the hosting services, and so we know the database management as well, which is the language written is SQL, and then the examples we have MySQL, Postgres, MongoDB, and the rest. And so the design and prototyping tools. So with that, we have some tools that we use to design. So mostly before you see a page out there, like a website out there, it's mostly designed before it is even before the codes are even written for it. So with those designs, we will be looking at them as well. So we have some tools that are used to write those designs. We have Figma. It are used to develop those designs. We have Figma, we have Framer, we have some use Canva as well. So all this will get into it. So don't worry at all. So we have the code editors. So what is a code editor? A code editor is a software application that allows users to write and edit code. So like I said, this is a code editor. So let's just type something here and then like you see this. Let me take this one out. So we just type in something. I just type in something here. Say hey. This is just something we are typing. So code editors are where we get to write the codes and then we get to edit them as well. So it's loading. So there you have it. You see the hey there. And so if you want to change it, you can just delete this side, save it, and then it automatically changes there. Let's refresh it. So it automatically changes here as well. So those are that's a code editor, example of a code editor. So we have examples of code editors. So the key features of code editors are to highlight errors, that's syntax errors, and then so some are code error detection. So we'll get there, and then customization option, code auto completion. So you see, as I was starting to write the code, I didn't have to write all this. I just pressed something and then it automatically brought out everything for me from scratch. So an example of a good code editor. So code editors are there to help us make work easier. And some examples of code editors. So I use Visual Studio Code, but we have Sublime Text, Notepad plus plus, and others. We have Jet JetBrain. We have a lot. We have a lot. So now we are talking about browsers and developer tools. So what is a web browser? So a web browser is a software application used to access and display web content. So we all know examples of web browsers. So there will be someone can just be like, ah, Charlie, which browser you use? Which browser do you use? Which browser do you use? Mostly that's what people say. And then or what is the best browser to use? Honestly, it depends on what you are doing. But then I use Brave. That's what I use. I use Brave and Chrome. At first, I used to use Opera as well. A friend of mine uses Opera. So that browsers are used to open uh, web contents. That's what browsers are used for. So they convert the HTML, the CSS, and JS into visual format. All this we'll get into it, so don't worry about it. And so it's some popular browsers. It depends on you and then what you are doing. So mostly sometimes when you're using some forms, it'll be like use only Chrome. Yes, some say use Mozilla. It depends on what you are doing. So as for me, I use Brave. So it depends on you. So if they say the best web browser for you, just go with what the function is. I believe yeah that would do. The function you are using, the function of the browser you like, what the browser will be doing. Yeah, let me get it right. So we have developer tools. So what are developer tools? So they are set of authoring and debugging tools built into web browsers. So when you come to a web browser, I don't know for all web browsers, but then when I press Control Shift I, it automatically opens my developer tools for me. So there you have it. So this is developer tools. So some can press. So you just right click and then go to inspect. and then it opens your developer tools for you as well. So it depends on your browser. I don't know if all browsers use a Control Shift I, but then just for flex, it's nothing crazy. The reason why sometimes we use shortcuts is just for flex, you know. Nothing crazy about that. You can go the long way if that's cool with you. And so we have some features of developer tools. So we have the elements panel, the console, the network panel. So all that you get to see them here. So you have the console, the source, the network. So you even saw a red, it's all failed to load resource. Thank you. So the internet is disconnected. So you get to see your errors and all here. You have the network, we have performance, you have memory, security, recorder, all that. We have all that there. So all this we'll be looking into it one after the other. And then we have, so the reason for using developer tools, so like we just saw there, we saw that it showed me an error that it was trying to load, but then my internet is disconnected. So that's like a use of developer tools as well. And then we have another use. We have modifying styles to see live action instantly, and then testing responsive designs, analyzing web performances. So when it comes to developer tools, we can actually, so let's say we have this here. You can actually edit whatever you see here. So let's go here. Right now we don't have any codes like that here, but then as time goes on, when we start developing, we would actually use the developer tools to check on some few examples and then see how we can edit at the developer tools as well. And then he spoke about responsiveness. So responsiveness deals with your design being able to adjust on all web platforms and then phones as well. So with the developer tools, you get to know if the design you've done is feasible on a web, on a machine and on a phone as well. And then it gets to show you the type of phones that are there. So you get to choose. So maybe my phone has, so like the dimensions and all. You get to know the dimension. So maybe, okay, let's see here. So you have iPhone 12. So this is the iPhone 12 dimension. So when you are done developing, you check through all this to know if it's responsive, to know if the design actually looks nice on iPhone 12 or the phone you are using. So each phone has a dimension, as we all know. So when you are done programming, you get to see if it works well on other phones and other devices. If it doesn't, then you go back to the code and rectify your mistakes, and then you take it from there. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you learned something new today. So in as much as this is just the theory part, we'll be dealing with the practicals as time goes on. I just want us to get a little understanding of how some little basics of things work, and then the knowledge behind some one or two things. So in our next meeting, we'll be understanding how web pages load. So you get to know how they load from scratch. So maybe you've just been seeing the web page load, but then the websites load, but then you don't know how or what is behind that loading and how everything takes place. So we get to see the architecture, the client server model, the HTTP, the HTTPS protocols, how the browsers work, the DNS resolution, the request response cycle, understanding web hosting, what is web hosting, types of web hosting, and many more. So I just want you guys to just get a brief and simple understanding of what we've had today. Just sit down and then focus, and then just you can explore on your own. Like you see how we've gotten to know how the console works, the developer tools work. So we haven't really gone into detail, I understand, but then you can just scroll and then see what it entails there. And then you get to look at some editors, the code editors you'll be using for the codes that you'll be writing. And then go and take a look at the design and prototyping tools that is out there. So for me, I use Figma, but now I'm trying to go into Framer as well. So I use Figma mostly. Yes, very very like I use most of my designs have Figma designs. So that depends on you as well. But these days, I'm hearing Framer is taking the lead in terms of design development. So it depends on you. So just go and check out the one you'll be using. So as time goes on, when we get to the coding phase and then the design phase, we can actually speed up and then learn more things from each other. I learn from you, you learn from me. So guys, thank you very much for listening today, and then hope you have a nice day. So we'll link up for the other sessions and the other outlines. You take care.